Housing should be a human right, ideally one enshrined in the United States Constitution. But that shouldn't stop the city of Los Angeles from adopting such a right. In fact, the City Council has asked city agencies to research the idea. It's an idea whose time has come. Across Los Angeles, homeless encampments sprawl on sidewalks not far from million-dollar condos. Among the people in the city who do have housing, most are renters, and 50% of those spend more than half their income on rent and utilities. A right to housing has a simple but powerful underpinning. The government should ensure that everyone has an adequate home. Housing, healthcare and food should all be human rights guaranteed under the law. What would this housing look like? Gary Blasi, a UCLA law professor emeritus who has spent most of his career advocating for homeless people, describes it as a place where you can have autonomy, dignity and privacy. Specifically, that looks like an apartment, a room in an apartment, house or hotel or motel, with a door, a lock on the door and a window. In fact, it's time to stop talking about beds for homeless people, unless they need a bed in a hospital or a residential mental health facility. Homeless people need homes. In January 2020, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority estimated that there were about 66,000 homeless people in the county and around 41,000 in the city. A right to housing won't completely alleviate the need for temporary shelter for homeless people. But as permanent housing becomes more available, the less time people will need to spend in shelters. This is not a right to shelter. In fact, a right to shelter would siphon off money, time and energy all better spent creating and preserving housing for poor people, including homeless individuals. Shelter is not cheap. Even setting up a safe campground for homeless people with security, food, restrooms and service providers can cost more than $2.500 a person per month. You could get an apartment for that. Nor is this a revolutionary idea. President Franklin D. Roosevelt spoke of it in his 1944 State of the Union address. The United Nations has recognized a right to housing for decades. The treaty into which it was codified was signed by the US, but never ratified. Finland, Scotland and South Africa all have implemented a right to housing, with worthy if varying results. A right to housing doesn't mean that the government gives everyone free housing. A right to housing would offer protection against forced eviction and legal counsel to people facing eviction. It should be used to incentivize the creation of affordable housing, and to prioritize the provision of housing over parochial land use and unnecessary environmental impact reviews and arguments, grounded in NIMBYism, that are often used to block the development of multifamily residences and housing for homeless people.